Has anyone seen them around? I sent them a message. We might just have to get started. All right, this is weird. Why are you, I want to move you up here.
Randy Joe, I'm glad you're a pro at this.
Not a pro at all.
Because I am not at all.
Not at all. See, it's 2:03. We're running behind already. That's my fault. And I don't know why. Is the squares weird to everyone else too?
Yeah, she's down below.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll just go with it.
Okay, it's an imaginary timeline. Don't let it sweat you, you know?
Yeah, right? No timeline. We're on island time anyways.
That's
all of
right.
us photos, right? So awesome.
That's right.
Well, welcome in everybody. What we're going to do is hopefully we get Sailing Arbo Venture to pop up here in a few minutes and I can get them into the chat. If you guys see them in the chat, please let me know and I'll invite them in. Okay, so what we're going to do is just do a quick introduction of who you are, what boat you're on or what boat you have, and then also where you are in your adventures at this time. So Caddy and the Cat, looks like you're first this time.
All right. I'm sorry, what was the first question?
So we're getting started now, just kidding. So who you are and what your boat name is and what type of boat you have, and then what current adventure you're on.
Oh, okay. Our boat name is Gotta Sea. It's a 30-foot Endeavor catamaran. We are currently in Key West. We were headed toward the Dry Tortugas, but we ended up spending 2 weeks in the Marquesas instead. So we're getting provisions and checking out the weather and seeing if we can go back or if we need to head back to our home port for a little bit. So I forgot one part of the question. I think I forgot one part of the question.
Yeah, just who you guys are, what boat you're on, and what your adventures are. But I think you kind of answered that. So yeah, you guys are all good. Anna?
Hey everyone, my name is Anna. I live on a 3-masted steel-hulled cargo schooner named the Sarah G. It's a 65-foot Tom Colvin design. And I live on it with my husband and our 2 kids, and we're currently on Cape Cod in our home port where we're from, and in the midst of some major wild boat renovation. And it's exhausting. I have sanded so much this last week. I never want to see a piece of sandpaper again.
Oh my gosh. Belvins?
My name is Tiffany, and I live on the sailboat with my husband Jimbo and our 2 boys, Chandler and Sailor. We have a Beneteau Oceanus 500, and we are currently in Puerto Rico, and we started in Florida. So we've been just making our way down south, and we're heading towards Grenada for the hurricane season.
And Wild Salted, a new person here in our live.
So my name's Rochelle, and we have a Durbeck 46. We started our journey 2.5 years ago. So we actually just flipped around. We were down as far as the DBIs, and now we are actually approaching the Crooked Island. So the lighthouse is right there. We are headed back towards the United States right now. Yeah. So we're together with my husband and myself, and we started off with 2 of our dogs, but they have since passed away. So that's where we are.
Sorry to hear that. Okay, and again, Sailing Arbo Venture, they were invited, so hopefully they can pop in. We'll see if they pop in at some point. Again, my name's Randy. My family and I live on sailing vessel Constantina. She's a 2002 Fontaine Peugeot Athena 38. It's a sailing catamaran. And we're currently in Florida, looking to head north to Rhode Island, Maine, somewhere up by Anna this summer. So that's our plans, and we're just kind of counting down the project list and getting ready to go up there. Just real quick, some housekeeping. So again, those of you that are just new coming in, the taps and comments are kind of shared between everyone. The gifts or follows, if you want to go to the individual pages and follow and gift them, that's fine. We'd all appreciate the daily heart me's. That's great. And anything you would like to donate to our cause, we appreciate it. Comments are great. Like, keep it up, no worries, but we can't keep up with questions at the moment. After we go through our questions at the roundtable, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. And so I'm going to do my best to keep track of all the questions and answer them towards the end. But if you could hold questions until we're at the Q&A portion of today, that would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started with the first question. And that is, how did you get started with boat life? So you could talk about what was your all-in point, how long did it take you to go from land to boat life, what did you do with your house or rental, accommodations on coming back? Did you use a storage unit or sell everything? Like, we want to know how you got first started. So, Patty, thank you. Patty and the cat, you're first.
Well, I said the other day we kind of tiptoed in. We didn't want to go all in because I get seasick. So we still have a house on land, and we do this part time. Right now we're in Key West. We've been on the boat 2 weeks, and we have planned on being on the boat 2 months this time. This boat, we didn't go all in. We had another fishing boat that we sold, and we found this 30-foot sail cat, and we did swim to it. We've just been seeing how long we can stay off the grid, and how far out we can get and testing it. This is really our first year on this type of kind of live aboard boat with our 3 fur babies. So we're just getting started. We're just testing out this summer. We ran into a few challenges already this summer dealing with bugs, but we're working on it, making that situation a little better. So there's some real life stuff. Like today, we're doing laundry in Key West. Yay. But yeah, we're just getting started. We're not all in right now. We're thinking about it. We passed this beautiful catamaran on the way here, and we're like, should we just sell everything and go all in and just be all in, So we're considering it.
Y'all vote yes, you should.
Yes. 4 thumbs up. Very cool. So tiptoeing in, gotcha. So those that are also maybe thinking of this lifestyle, Caddy and the Cat might be a good first step to follow and talk to about just getting into it and still not able to separate fully from land life, which is kind of what a lot of people have to do. But Anna, what about you guys?
Can you just clarify what the question was before I make a fool of myself? I'm sorry.
Yes, no worries. So it's kind of just, how did you get started with boat life? Like, what was your all-in moment for you guys to be like, we want to do that? And, how long did it take you to go from land to boat life? And did you get rid of everything or just sacrifice to land, that sort of thing?
Perfect. Okay. So we have lived aboard a boat for 7 years, but we're on the boat that we've been on for 5 years. And, so my husband used to fish for a living. He captained a fishing boat, and he was gone like 100+ hours a week. And we were both like, this isn't what living is. Like, there's no way. He was missing our daughters being born, like being alive. He was like, we can't do this. But, so we left and we sold everything we owned and moved on to a 30-foot Catalina with our 2 children. But even then, we always said to ourselves, like, if this doesn't work, we can go back to living our old life. He can get his old job back. We could rent another house. We were renting. We didn't own a house. So we were like, even if we hate it, we'll just do it for this, this season. And then we can always go back to living the same life. Because I think a lot of times people are afraid that if you decide to do something, then you then have to do that for the rest of your life. That's like the beautiful thing about life. You can always change your mind. So we went in going, we're going to do this. We're going to see if it works for us. And then if it doesn't, we can go back. And 7 years later and 25,000 miles, we're still at it. We still love it. And, we have no plans to stop anytime soon. And, regular land life is always waiting if we want it. So it's not like it's going anywhere. So, but yeah, we're happy to be here. We're happy to be sailing still 7 years later.
That's awesome. Melvin's?
So our first long trip or adventure was when we got our 135. So we used to have 135. In 2018, 2019, we did the whole sailing season in the Bahamas for 3 months and came back, and then did the next sailing season, came back. We're full-time now, and we've been full-time on this boat since December. So we bought this Beneteau Oceanus 500 then. It's been a dream to be full-time for over 10 years, but as far as what was the all-in, we better go ahead and do it now. We had a lot of family and friends pass away in a short amount of time. And so we just kept saying, the years just keep going by. And so whatever we need to do to make it happen, we're just going to do it. And so we have been talking about selling my husband's business, which I know we'll get into the 40 part later, so I won't go into that. But we knew we were probably going to sell his business and eventually. So we were like, we're just going to do it now. So our tipping point was when we lost a lot of family and friends and realized that no matter what you plan for, you don't know how long you're going to be here. And we want to do it while our children are young and still at home. Some people like to wait, until their children are out of the home and like doing their own thing. And then they kind of want to do it just as a couple. But for us, we really wanted to do this while our children were still at home with us. And also while we were young enough to still, be active and physical, because sailing is a lot more physical than like RVing. So like I always think if I'm going to do something nomadic later, I can always do RVing. We have done RVing in the past. We lived on an RV for 5 years, but I was thinking, if we needed to do something less physical as we get older, we might could do like RV life.
Very cool. Wild Salted?
Well, Chris pretty much grew up in this life. His family had owned a marina back in the day, so he grew up on sailboats. He grew up racing sailboats. Prior to me, he had previous sailboats. So our current boat was purchased in the Bahamas and was a refit. So we had it on the hard, and we were working towards kind of putting it in the water. And at the time, we had both had houses. We came together, we've both been married before, divorced. We bought a house, so we still have a house on land. But we had, what did you say?
Sorry, we just saw a huge 6-foot ray jump out of the water.
Well, Chris just saw a ray, but I didn't see a ray because I'm looking at you guys. So I saw him go, but I didn't see. So anyhow, so pretty much he got this boat and we were down for a refit, and we set a hard date during COVID and we splashed. We sailed a year in the U.S. before we left, and then last January we left the Bahamas. So we haven't been back to the U.S. since then, January of 2024. And so we still have our house on land, which we have family in that are kind of keeping it for us. But it was pretty much for us setting a hard date because we were refitting the boat, and you basically could refit your boat forever. And I mean, we have a hatch that we still haven't installed that we have carried over 10,000 nautical miles. So there's that, right? So we had 2 dogs. So we have little patches of paint that aren't done because they were always walking on the deck. So, those are the things that can keep you there. We have a friend who built their boat, and it took them 30 years to build their boat, and they basically splashed the same time we did. So for us, we kind of have come to see, you got to set a date and then you go for it. And we were living off, we knew what we were going to do and when kind of we were going to do it. So we stashed a bunch of money away, and that was what our kitty was going to be. And then we were going to go from there. So
That's awesome.
no plan.
Mm-hmm. The no plan plan. Yes.
With the wind and the waves. That's pretty much how we roll.
That's how a lot of us do it. Yep, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, for us, my family and I, we were in COVID lockdown in 2020. We had just gotten back from the Virgin Islands, and we had seen the boats out in the harbor and the bay, and wow, that's so cool. Could you live on a boat like that? But it's just for millionaires. We were kind of could we do that? I doubt it. And I really didn't. I'm from Colorado, so I really did not want to go sailing at all. I was super scared of water. I didn't want to do that at all. So, but we were stuck in COVID lockdown, and we kind of were looking for a different way to continue on with our lifestyle. We had our jobs shut down, my son's school, all that stuff. So we kind of ran the numbers and started doing research on this lifestyle. And when we figured out we could make it work with the numbers, we started looking for a boat within our budget. It only took us 2 months to go from can we do this, to doing it, to purchasing a boat. So it was very, very fast, very furious. We said goodbye to family really quickly, drove across the country, got on the boat, splashed it finally in October of that year. So about 9 months from idea to splashing. So it was very fast and furious for us. We actually kept our home as a rental for a year. We gave ourselves a year-long trial just to see if we could do this. And if I could survive, we knew my son would be fine. Our dog would be fine. Obviously, my husband's from Florida, so he's totally fine with this. But I didn't know about myself, honestly. So we gave it a year, rented the house, and then after the full year of sailing, we all thought together as family, we do love this, we want to continue. Sold the house, severed most of the ties with storage and all that stuff back home in Colorado. And 5 years later, here we are. So that's our story. Okay, so question 2. We've got 7 questions, and then we're going to get to Q&A from the chat. So what was your boat budget range? And you don't really have to tell us like exact numbers if you don't want to. That's totally fine. Was it like under 100K? Was it between 100 and 200? Like, kind of what was your range? And maybe how many different boats did you find in that range that you were looking at? Did you finance, get a loan? Again, if you don't want to discuss this, it's totally fine. And did you, again, sell or rent a property in order to help afford? What about your business? So this is kind of where we'll get into the business type aspects. So Patty and the cat, you're on the move.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys the boat as I talk about how we found the boat and where we found the boat. We found the boat in Indiantown. We were looking for a year and a half before we found it. So we were looking for something that we could stay on, for like weeks at a time and go to the Bahamas. But I get seasick, so we were hoping to get a catamaran. Catamarans are super expensive. So we were thinking, this really isn't in our range. And so we found this 30-foot Endeavor Sailcat in Indiantown. It was listed for $60,000. And how much was it listed for? Oh, 75. I'm sorry. It was listed for 75. We got it for 60, I think. And we put in. So the way we bought the boat, we had a whaler before, and we sold it. We did a lot of work on the whaler before we sold it, so we made a really nice profit. And there's a cool story to go along with that whaler some other time. But that's how we bought the Gotta See, was with the profits of that boat. So we got the Gotta See, and then we budgeted ourselves $15,000 for a refit remodel. So we added the solar panels, Starlink, a new 30 horsepower Suzuki engine. I know, right? The power. Don't let it get to you. You see so much more life though going slow. I like moving slow. So we were able to tiptoe in that way and keep our house in Stuart, Florida. So we have family there as well. So it kind of works out, and that's how we tiptoed in on a 30-foot Endeavor catamaran. And she's a 94. She needs a little work, but we're doing it slowly like everybody else. And there's always a project. We were just at West Marine. No, what do they have here? We were just at the store today buying a part.
Super cool. Thanks, Patty. Anna?
Well, it's so funny because when you sent us the questions about what we were talking about, I looked at my husband. I'm like, oh, I don't know if we're the right if I'm the right person for this live, because we did everything so, I don't know. Our budget for our first boat was $0. We had we just had no money, and we were like, we're gonna make it work. You know what I mean? We're gonna make it work with whatever we can find. And the thing is my husband has worked on boats his whole life. He can do it all kind of stuff. So yeah, our first sailboat we found in somebody's backyard, and they wanted it out of there, and it was listed for $2,500, and we got it for $0. And we put probably $8,000 into the boat and out million hours of labor. But then now that was our first boat. Now the second boat that we're on, the Sarah G, is a whole different story, and it's too long to tell here. But the quick version is that it was a hurricane wreck. They wanted to scuttle the boat. They were going to sink it because it was so broken. And we were like, you can't sink this boat. It's too beautiful. So basically we paid for the boat what the price of the engines were, because all they were going to do was take the engines out of the boat and sell the engines. So we spent $20,000 just buying our boat, just because that's what the engines were worth. And now we've put probably $60,000 into the boat that we have, $50,000 into the boat over the last 5 years. But the boat is probably worth $300,000. So like if you're maybe more, like it's a one of a kind boat. There's not another Sarah G. So like it's kind of hard to give it a price tag, but you know, we decided that since we didn't have the capital to be able to do the upfront cost of buying a boat that was $100,000, we decided to buy a boat that was in, you know, because we had a skill set of being able to fix a boat, but we didn't have the money to be able to buy it. So we decided to, you know, use our labor as like the capital essentially of how we were able to buy the boat. So if that makes sense, I don't know if that did, but anyway. So yeah, I mean, there's many ways to go about it. And, you know, we really were like a young family with no money and probably delusional in thinking that we could do this. And then we were like, all right. And we've made it work. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Awesome. Great story. Tiffany?
So if I backtrack a little bit, so I've talked about how we've had a couple of bigger boats before this, so I'll do like a quick rundown from previously. So one of our first big boats was a 45-foot Coronado, and it was a lemon, so it was like had a lot of problems with it. It was just needed a whole bunch of stuff done to it, but kind of like Anna said, we were like the delusional ones thinking we're going to be able to fix it. I don't know what we're thinking because we are not handy like George. I don't know what we're thinking. And we had a small baby at the time, and we were just like dreaming, and we got this boat. It was a 45-foot boat, and we paid $20,000 for it. So if that tells you what kind of shape it was in. Anyways, so we got a loan on that one. We paid that one off in a couple of years. Then when it was time to sell it, we sold it to a guy he paid cash for it. We sold it to him for the 20 we had bought it for, but we had to put in a bunch of money, so I already know we lost a lot on it. But we did that. Then we took that money and rolled it into our Hunter 35. So our Hunter 35, I think, was $45,000. So we put the whole $20,000 down on it. So we only borrowed $25,000. Paid that off within just a couple of years. Then we ended up, COVID and all that kind of crap happened, and then it just sat there for a couple of years. We got rid of that boat, and then over those years that things happened, we didn't have a big sailboat for a while. And then with this Beneteau Oceanus 500, my husband ended up selling his business. And so we were able to buy this outright. So we don't have a boat payment. And if we didn't sell our business, we definitely wouldn't have been able to afford it getting a 50-foot boat. So I've talked about that before on one of my lives so that people don't think like you have to go buy some $100,000 boat, because you don't. And actually our first few years that we did the Bahamas, we were in our Hunter 35, and it didn't have any of the luxuries that I have now, like our water maker and our washing machine and all these things. Like we didn't have an autopilot. Like I remember steering, like we had an overnight passage down to the Keys, and it was like very uncomfortable waves and stuff steering all night. And I was thinking, we're getting autopilot, or we're getting another boat. Yes, we have done it the rustic way. Like even on the 135, there wasn't a windlass. Like Jimbo is hand pulling up our anchor. So I always tell people, like, if you want to do it, you can do it on a small budget. You can do it on a small boat, but you might not have all the luxuries that we do have now because we've kind of upgraded, but you can do it on less, and we have done it on less. Like I said, no autopilot, definitely no washing machine or water maker, and no windlass. So you can do it on a shoestring budget. It's just really how bad do you want it, and what are you willing to sacrifice, and what comforts and conveniences are you willing to sacrifice to come do it. So even if you're not like, you know, got a huge, massive budget, don't think that you can't do this life, because you can if you're willing to put the work. Like, obviously, it's inconvenient to have to pull up your anchor by hand. But if you can bring you to the Bahamas and get to do these amazing experiences, we felt like that was a very small price to pay. And by we, I mean my husband, because he was the one pulling it up. He was the one yanking the anchor up. But yeah, so you can do this on a shoestring budget. I mean, we have, and now we do have a bigger boat and a little bit bigger budget because we sold a business. But I always make sure I share about how we got started, because we didn't always have a 50-foot boat. And you don't have to have a 50-foot boat to do it.
Great. So I guess it's me.
Yes, it is. Go for it.
So Chris and I were both in Colorado, so some smaller sailboats and power boats, because there you're sailing on, you know, the reservoirs, or you're taking your boat somewhere to a lake, obviously. But our current boat, it was like 10 telephone calls, kind of. We were looking for a blue water boat. We wanted a full catch keel. So there were certain things that we were looking for. So like after 10 telephone calls on different listings, and beyond like the smaller Colorado boats, because this boat was going to be in Virginia and on the water. in Chesapeake. This was found in the Bahamas, so at that point, we also had a little bit different kind of a budget. The budget was like 1 to 2, and based off of what was in the actual boat, it kind of, flipped how that money was spent. And so Chris flew over, did the sea trial, did all that stuff. It all came out. The boat went back. He sailed the boat back to Virginia. It went on the hard and was still in Colorado at the time. So it was like flying back and forth to do some boat jobs. So there was a little bit of, I guess, a different intention. Like we knew that there would be some time behind before we actually got on the boat. And like $100,000 kind of budget to go into the boat because we didn't want to do it the camping way. So like previous experience on like smaller boats or weekend sailing or things of that nature, there were certain things like that we knew were kind of not compromises for us because I would have not been happy, like having a washing machine. Like we did try that for like 3 months. I had one of those whooshy things that, the tumbler. But in the long run, it used way more water than having a washing machine because I was forever rinsing things. And I hadn't been previously a boat girl. So I really do feel as though we made the boat comfortable for us. But that came into, we did the hard work. Like what we didn't do was when we did blisters on the bottom when it was pulled, we knew that for the survey. We knew we were gonna have the bottom peeled, but like with that comes a pretty good cost, not work that we would do. Well, work Chris started to do, but when you start peeling your bottom, you recognize that that's better left to the people who do that full time. And we basically did everything else. So all in all, I feel as though we kind of like gutted the boat. We put in lithium ion, like we pulled out the original batteries, we put in a lithium ion bank. And we did this all back in like 2018, 2019, 2020. Rewired the entire boat, put in new air conditioning. Some of the key components that we were looking for with the full catch keel was the solid fiberglass bottom. We've literally run full aground on a reef. We did not rip a hole through our boat. We had no damage to the bottom of the boat. It was unmarked on chart, like that's a whole other thing. But we were looking for something, we had the capacity literally to be able to hold enough diesel to sail across the ocean if we had no wind and to make it on what we carry on the boat. So there were kind of those types of components that we were looking for that this boat offered. And it's a semi-custom boat out of Florida. So we've seen a couple around, like in the US. We just saw one actually in the BVIs. We saw one in North Carolina, like a sister boat. And they're each a little bit different. And then we really like gutted things. We ripped out our nav station. Chris installed this like absolutely fabulous freezer. So like I could fit inside of our freezer. So we did take the time before we splashed her to do like little things that would make a difference kind of in our life. And then again, I say like there's other things, like we're still carrying our hatch, So like we got a new generator, had the engine redone, like all like, I mean, you name it, the hard top that's above us, we put it on. I mean, I have fiberglassed, I have tiled, I know more about things that I never thought that I would know about, but I do. Because we're like you, we worked on our boat. Like, so we wanted to be the ones, if something went wrong, we knew we could fix it. We know every component and basically every inch of this boat. Like it has caused us to bleed. It has created injuries. That was all before we got on the water. So that's what we were. And we don't have a mortgage on the boat.
Gotcha. Well, for us, we were searching for something under the $100,000 range. And then it was kind of like shopping for houses. If you go up one level, you're going to find much better quality. So we went up just a little bit, a little skosh to $150,000. That was going to be what we could afford, but we're still paying off a boat loan 5 years later. So we did get a loan for ours. What we looked for, we wanted, and we're going to get into this in the next question too, like what you were looking for. But whatever we were looking for was in that range. We're, like I said, still paying it off, but we eventually sold the home. That took a little chunk out of our payment for our loan, but we really noticed that the difference in like 100,000 and below, then 100,000 and up. And just the difference in like everybody's saying, like this one for 110,000 comes with a water maker, whereas this one for 70,000 doesn't. So you kind of have to weigh your options on everything you want and everything the boat comes with, or everything it doesn't, and you're going to have to add later. And it might cost you more later, or it could cost you less now. So there were a lot of different options we looked at, but this one came with most of the stuff we wanted. And like I said, we'll get into that in the next section here. So that is what needs or interests shaped your boat choice. So that could be like the family size or solo sailing, desired location or cruising area, number of cabin or layout, a number of cabins or layout needs, the type of boat, monohull versus multi-hull, and intended use. Did you want to be coastal? Did you want to be blue water? That sort of stuff. So what really shaped your boat choice? Patty in the chat?
I definitely wanted a catamaran to, help with the seasickness as we kind of eased into this lifestyle. So that was one thing that we were looking for within our budget, which made it impossible, which is why we looked for a year and a half. And I was so disillusioned back then. The only thing I really wanted was a separate shower. Yeah, so I had no idea this was like camping on the water. So that was my main priority, a boat with a separate shower, because I was so afraid of a wet head. I'd never used a wet head before. So that was my only demand on the boat. So I was pretty flexible, pretty easy. Our boat is definitely like camping, just to let you know. It's a 30-foot boat. So we do have AC, we do have a water maker, I do have hot water. I have the important things that I need, to me anyway. But I'm gonna let the captain take over for like the technical specs of what we were looking for and why.
Would you like to do that?
What's that?
I think the shallow draft was a big thing for us.
Yeah.
2 foot, 2.5 feet, or whatever we draw, which means we can get in some places, a lot of those places are 5 foot draft boat, 4 foot draft boat where we can get near. And then also because of your seasickness, wanted to make sure we could get closer to shore, stop the swells. When you draw 5 or 6 feet, you usually got to anchor offshore a little bit. But what we discovered during summertime at some of these islands, you got to be a mile away from them islands anyway, or you're going to get beat by them.
Yeah, so, you do need to be a mile away. So we could have gone with a bigger boat because we have to be far enough away to escape the boats. That's a summer thing, for sure.
Yeah, and the owners of this boat, so they were very minimalist. They had the whole composting for it. They were just running on some golf cart battery. It was very basic.
Yeah,
very, very basic. And but I saw the shell. It's kind of like a houseboat with sails, but it actually takes away. These things have been around. But just put a new outboard on it, put a water maker. It just needed to be reworked because it had, but it works great. And I don't see how you can do it without a water maker. It only holds 75, 80 gallons of water.
right.
So we're going for 20, 25 gallons a day at least. So I don't know how you can do it without a water maker, but you gotta keep going in and jugs or something, carrying jugs.
We are thinking about upgrading to a bigger boat. So the thought is already in our head, and now my list is growing of things that I would like to have. I would like to have on the next boat, like a washer, not necessarily a dryer, because I hear the combos really don't work that well anyway, and you end up drying most of your stuff, drying most of your stuff. Is that true? I don't know. But there's some things that we would like, maybe just a little bit more space because we both work remotely. So another space where we can, work remotely, that would be great. We work on Starlink. We're normal people. We're not retired. We both work full time, and we pay a mortgage on our house. So we're just like normal people who fell into this. Now, the captain did grow up on a sailboat. I should mention that. So he knows everything that there is to know about sailing. he was born and raised in the Florida Keys. So he has a ton of experience. I wouldn't be doing this without him. And I think that just like Phoenix, and Oliver, he really educated himself before he got on a boat and bought a boat. And he learned everything that there was to know about sailing and fixing everything that was on his boat before he took off. And I think that he's a very responsible boater and a good one to follow.
We've met plenty of the officers.
Yes.
I up in a U-Haul and I'm on Craigslist and I bought the boat, sold everything, got on it and left. Like right from the owner without even.
Oh yeah. Remember that guy in Fort Pierce that looked like Captain Ron boat? And he was just like, yeah, I just sold everything and took my girlfriend on the boat. And we're like, it was crazy. And they were in Fort Pierce and they made it in one piece. And he was buying the composting toilet that we were removing from this boat. So.
Yeah, we had
awesome.
A real freshwater toilet in. I couldn't handle the cold water.
So you can do it, I guess. I mean, he had zero experience. He bought a boat and just did it. But I think Phoenix did it the right way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Thanks, guys. Anna, what about for you guys?
Oh, man. Again, I'm not sure. I don't know. We were young and we just wanted to live on the water. So we were like, that's a boat and I think it looks like it'll work. Like we just, we didn't have a laundry list of things that we needed to make it work. I mean, also like we're very adaptable in the sense that like we can make anything work. So like we just, and now of course, as I've lived on a boat for 7 years, I've realized what I like and need and whatever. Like we don't have a water maker on board our boat, but we also hold 600 gallons of water. So like we, and while getting a water maker is something that is a priority for us now, it wasn't going to stop us from traveling, and I really just think it had to do with the mindset that we were in. It was like, we just wanted to be out there doing it. And so, it was for us, our main priority when we first got our boat was safety for the kids because we had 2 young children. We moved aboard with an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. So, we spent a lot of money on our first boat getting netting around the side of the boat so that there was, safety netting around our lifelines and making sure we had the flares and the level, like all the life vests, all that kind of stuff, Now that we're in the process of renovating and refitting, we're looking at a water maker. To get a water maker, we have a washer. Just so you know, washer dryer combos do suck. We have one, awful. We only use it as a washing machine and then we dry our clothes out on the deck. So, but also that's fine. Like we don't need anything else besides being able to wash our clothes. So, I don't know. I guess I wasn't like, we weren't like a lot of the people who had like a list of things that were really important for them. It was just really important for us to go sailing. So, yeah, I don't know. Now, of course, yeah, like I said, now there's more stuff that I want as a luxury, but that's what it would feel like to me. Like it doesn't necessarily feel like something that I would need to be able to go sailing because I've done it on a 30-foot Catalina with almost nothing. And now I have this beautiful like 65-foot schooner. And I have a lot more and, my life is more comfortable now, but it was just as beautiful when we were sailing on our old boat too. So.
Very cool. Tiffany?
So I kind of learned from having the Hunter 35 and doing it kind of the rustic way, what I would like to have when we were able to purchase something that cost a little more and was a little bigger. So like I was saying earlier, I knew that we wanted to do like the water maker, the, autopilot, the windlass, all those type of things. One thing that I would say about people who want to live this lifestyle, if you can afford it, it is really nice if you can buy a boat that already has those things. If you're trying to travel like full time and go like long distances, it's really nice to be off grid, but it's not a necessity. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, and Anna kind of said too, is that it's not a necessity. So like if I, for instance, couldn't afford this boat that had those items on it, would that have kept me from going? No. I would have just got another boat like my Hunter 35 that didn't have all those things and I still would have went. So it is a luxury thing, and if you can afford it, there is nice things to that. Being more like off grid does make it where you can go to like more remote places. You don't have to worry about, oh no, where am I going to go get water at, and all those kind of things. And that was a really nice luxury this time around, because in the past we did have to think about that, like where am I going to get water, watching the water tanks constantly. Now I pretty much care less, and I just, oh look, the water's out, and I just do the water maker. So there are luxury things like that, but they're definitely not like things that you have to have. But some of the things besides those luxury items were like, we knew we wanted more cabins, because on the Hunter 35, our children shared a cabin, which they were 2 and 4 years old and 3 and 5 back then. So who cares? But now that they're older and they're 8, about to be 9 and 11, they really expressed they wanted their own cabins. So having their own space was important for us. We wanted to buy in Florida, which is where we bought most of our boats. Probably all of our boats. I think all of them were bought in Florida. And actually I was giving somebody advice, a Texas girl, she might be on here, but I was giving somebody advice because she was wondering if she should buy in Texas or Florida. But I told her to buy in Florida because if you're a new sailor and you haven't got a lot of experience, it's a great place to start, because there's a lot of small jumps you can make, like down to the Keys or over to the Bahamas. There's so many different places you can go that are just like a day hop, and you're not having to do like overnights and all these things that are scary when you're first starting out. So I definitely think buying in Florida is a good option for that, because you do have so many spots that you can go to. But I mean, of course, Keys, Dry Torch, it's a great jump off point. So I always suggest people to buy in Florida. Plus, they've got like the most boats. I mean, it's the most concentrated place to buy a boat at anyway. So you're going to have tons of options. And we broker for ours when we did our boats. I have bought with and without a broker. I can go on like hours and hours long conversation about that. I won't, but there are lots of pros and cons about using a broker or not using a broker, because I've done it both ways, and there's things that I like about it and things that I don't. So if someone wants to go that, I can later. But yeah, so there are pros and cons about that. But that was kind of things we were looking for. We knew we wanted all those luxury items if we could afford it, and we wanted the extra space for the so having extra.
Perfect. Wild salted?
Oh gosh. Well, I feel like that, like there are very many variables there, because now 2.5 years into this, certain things we talked about were based off of kind of where we were too, because we actually did just look at cats when we were in the BVIs and the USVIs, because there's so many of them there. But like our home port in Virginia is full of monohulls. So, we also, like having had, like Chris having previously had small boats, since we were looking for a blue water cruiser, we wanted large tanks. That was important to us, but also being on the hard, we got a lot of stories. And so we did a lot for a budget. We were working during our refit, so, we did have income coming in. And that was to be used towards refitting this, because we were going to consider it to be our house. And so we kind of, we wanted to do it and we're going to do it. But for us, it was really important. Like I said, we had set a date. So we wanted to be able to do it with some things that we thought were comfortable for us. But we put those things in. So like large tanks, we can hold 350 gallons of water, but we do have a water maker. And we make water every few days. We have a large diesel tank, enough to be able to sail across an ocean. But then, I gave up a cabinet in order to have my washing machine installed. And we ripped out our nav station in order to install a huge freezer. So there were things that, I'm a health coach by nature, and being able to carry that onto the boat and continue to be able to cook and do the things that I did on land was important to us. And so like our biggest power draw is really cooking. I have a Breville oven that is an air cooker, blah, 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 everything. And I have an induction stove. So my cooking was a huge component in a lot of things that we did too. And then, we replaced an air conditioner with a different air conditioner. We can run the generator and run the air conditioner, but we don't. It's like 94 degrees and I'm sitting here with a cooling cloth because there's no wind today. So like, that's the reality. When we're at anchor, we are at anchor, but I do have the convenience of being able to cook easy. We installed solar, but that was all budgeted. We knew kind of what we wanted going into it, and then made that happen.
Some things would change.
And some things would change. So here, Chris is standing there. So,
Oh, sorry. So, like, everything's a compromise, right, guys? And you guys all know this. You know, with an older boat, you know, we're in 1980, so our hull shape is different, where the modern boats have a wide front end with these huge V berths and things like that. Those things would be nice to have for live and have people visit us. You know, we don't have a lot of room for people to visit us because we store too much stuff. Things like that. Every boat is a compromise. We decide what compromises we want to live with. We live with it.
yeah, like we ripped out our table because I wanted space to be able to do yoga inside of the boat. So, you know, we have a table that collapses down. So where a lot of people in their salon have, you know, a huge table that maybe they can make into an additional sleeping space, we took that out. And we have this, it's actually from IKEA. It's a table that just completely folds down basically on the other side of our galley so that I have a large salon space. But like Chris said, our V berth is tiny and it's set up with bunks. And we have one stateroom in we have our stateroom, and then we have a V berth that would essentially hold 2 people, 2 guests, and there's a head up there and we have a head in ours. So we're a 2-headed boat with 2 staterooms. So, you know, the Melvins have 4 staterooms. Our friends have your boat. And like one of their staterooms, our friend's wife uses as her closet because they don't have any children on their boat. So, you know, we don't have any kids. We had to make the boat safe for our dogs. So we put the netting and everything on. We've sadly, since Chris removed it when I was back in the US because I couldn't do it, because our dogs have gone on. So it was just us and our dogs because we have adult children. And they can sleep in the salon.
There you go. Very cool. Well, let's see. For us, we definitely wanted a sailing catamaran. I, being not a water person back in the day, was very nervous again about heeling over sideways, and so I did not want anything where I would be going like this. So we looked for catamarans. We really wanted to fit. We had our kid at the time was about 14, so we did want him to have his own room, us as well, and then we wanted room for guests. We knew we'd have a lot of friends and family coming to visit, so we looked for something that had either 3 or 4 bedrooms or cabins, and then this one actually had 2 bathrooms, 2 heads, so that worked out great. There's 2 cabins on each side, plus a bathroom in between, so that worked out perfect for our needs. We wanted something, again, kind of dog friendly. We didn't want our little 35-pound dog going overboard. So this one already had the lifelines on it, very protected for kids or dogs. And this one, the owners before us actually had 2 small children aboard. So it was very kid friendly, very dog friendly as well. So that was perfect for us. We also, what was big to us was a galley up. So the galley's the kitchen. A lot of smaller catamarans we were seeing had the kitchen cooking area down below, down the steps. We wanted everyone to feel like they were involved. So we really have just a continuation in here of our galley, our sink, our kitchen, our refrigerator, our seating area, so our television. So everything's kind of inclusive up top. Whereas sometimes if you've got a galley down the steps, you're separated from your guests and family. So we wanted a galley up. That was just one of our features we kind of looked for. And then we definitely wanted a shallow draft so that we could be cruising in the Keys and the Bahamas almost all of the time. So this one draws 3.5 feet. We've been known to run aground a couple times on purpose sometimes, and other times not on purpose, on accident. So this one already had some really good features like solar. I did have a lot of older appliances that had an oven that didn't work. And since this boat was built overseas, it was really hard to get new parts. A new oven was as much as the parts. So it was like, we didn't know what to do. So we just ripped out the oven and put in an easy bake. It's like a Ninja air fryer. So it works perfectly in that space. There's a couple of other upgrades that we continue to do to make it what we want. It did actually come with an old water maker that was original on the boat, and it ran fine for us in the Bahamas the first time. Now we're installing a new water maker. So as we come into funds from our jobs, then we can fund the extra stuff we want to put in. So that's kind of the balance for us too, is like, okay, here's our next goal. How much money do we need to make to get to that goal? So we're still working and doing all that. So let's see here. We're going to just do a single answer or one sentence to answer this question. It's real simple. It's just, how did you find your boat? So whether that's a website, a friend's backyard, like, how did you find your boat? So just a one word or small sentence on how you found it. Patty and the cat?
I was just asking the captain, I'm like, where did we find our boat? We found it on the catamaran site. It's just for catamarans. And so we were keeping our eye for a boat that was within our budget, from what we made from our last boat. And this one just popped up. So that's how we were able to get into it.
Perfect. Anna?
I'm trying to think of a sentence. We sailed our old boat to the marina in the Bahamas where this boat was. Our new boat was. Yeah.
Okay. So you just kind of visually saw it. Okay. Tiffany?
Yachtworld.com.
Perfect. Wild Salted?
Research, coincidence, and luck.
Okay,
That's,
cool.
Really,
And ours,
pretty much how it was.
we searched,
Awesome.
found one that met half the bill, flew out to the Bahamas, which wasn't a sucky thing.
I don't know if you could hear Chris.
yes, you see. Yeah, we can hear. That's awesome.
Which didn't suck, so we saw the boat and said, this will work for us. We can make it work for us.
Yeah.
And made the decision to pull the trigger, continue, but get on the water ASAP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
for
it.
us,
We were like you, still working and then putting the things in. So that budget was kind of built into. And I did forget on safety, we have a center cockpit with roller furling. So this can be single-handedly manned from our cockpit, and we don't ever have to go outside.
Cool. Well, for us, it was Facebook Marketplace. We actually found our boat on Facebook, and then they had a duplicate listing the same boat on also the catamaran site.com. So those two places are where we found ours. But there's tons of websites out there, and we can help answer some of those questions here in a little bit. Okay, so we're going to kind of merge two questions together. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A after this. So the questions are going to be, what steps did you take before buying your boat? So this is consideration like, did you get the look for insurance? Did you were you going to document it or get it state titled? These kind of things. So what steps did you take before and after? And then also we're also throwing in, what kind of safety items or safety considerations did you think of for your vessel? Okay, Patty?
I have to let the captain answer this one. It's, what kind of safety items did we consider before buying the boat? Insurance. Did we?
Insurance, yeah, document or title.
I know we did definitely. We documented and we did look into insurance before because we wanted, with all the hurricanes. We didn't want to lose our investment if a hurricane came by, so at least not all of it. So those were some things that we considered. Can you think of anything else?
We got fire.
A dinghy, right? Oh yeah,
We have a lot of stuff on board. We have propane.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
We got a lot of stuff. We have all but yeah, I have a bunch of protection. Fire extinguishers, but our engine's outside. We got nothing to use.
Right.
So we got that going for it. So hopefully it'll there. But yeah, we can think of anything else that we don't have a life raft or anything like that. Just a ding.
It's kind of hard to hear him.
It is? Okay. Well, he said, basically, we've got the basics on board for safety, and we did look into insurance and all of that, just like buying a car, I think, when you price those things before you make that investment to see, how expensive this is going to be. And insurance is one of the things that drives it up. Like, we just looked into getting $1 million coverage so that we could go to this specific marina in Key West, the Perry Marina, and they require $1 million coverage. And the only insurance company that does that in Florida is State Farm, which is awesome that they offer that. And their hurricane coverage is amazing. So I highly recommend that for your boat. We decided we're not going to do the Perry, but we're looking into maybe housing in the Florida Keys and doing that instead with the boat. So we're still working out our plan. But yeah, we're probably not as prepared as most of the full timers.
No worries, you guys are getting there. It's good. Everyone's in a different process in their boat life right now. Anna?
As far as safety gear goes, you know, the Coast Guard has a list of safety gear that's required. So if you ever get boarded by the Coast Guard is going to look for specific things so that you're in compliance with boating safety regulations. And it's different. It can be different depending on the country you're in and also how far offshore you're wanting to go. So, you know, for us, we made sure we were following all of the Coast Guard, you know, requirements, which is, you know, the easy stuff, a life jacket for everyone on board, flares. There's two different types of flares you need to have. Fire extinguishers on board are very important. That's something that my husband is like, if he could choose one item of a safety item to have on board, it would be fire extinguishers, reachable at any moment. He used to captain a fishing boat and he's seen some gnarly stuff with fires on boats and they're no joke. So, you know, things like that. I mean, and then AIS is extremely important in my opinion if you're doing any form of offshore cruising. You know, some people have a life raft, some people don't. I think that I see the merit in both options. And also, what are they called? Is it AI? It's not an AIS. It's like those beacons that attach to life. Yeah, EPIRBs. Thank you. EPIRBs are also something that we have on board. We have, not only do we have an EPIRB for the vessel in total, we also each individually have EPIRBs attached to a life jacket. So if you are, basically an EPIRB is something that signifies that if it's underwater essentially. So obviously if you're, you know, on a sailboat and your EPIRB goes underwater, that's not good. So it notifies the correct people. And as far as like costs beforehand, again, you know, threw caution to the wind a little bit there. Also, like, insurance is straightforward if you have a straightforward vessel. We don't have a straightforward vessel, so insurance was extremely complicated for us. You know, I can't go onto a website and like type in, you know, Catalina 30 like I used to. It's like, technically our boat is, there's a word, it was a salvage vessel. So like we needed to get it completely inspected. Anyways, I won't deal with that right now, but insurance can get complicated. The more intricate or oddness of a boat you have, insurance can be really complicated. So we only have liability insurance because we can't find a company that will insure our boat for the cost of the boat, because our bill of sale is so much less than what the value of the boat is. Like, so things can get complicated. I would definitely suggest liability insurance though, because like, for me, I always say that my insurance policy is my husband because he can, like, anything that goes down on the Sarah G, George can handle if it's like an internal thing. But of course, like, you can't control if something happens and another boat is ruined in it. And you're anchoring next to some expensive boats out there. So, yeah.
Exactly.
They usually have better insurance.
That's true.
Tiffany?
So as far as safety stuff, we have a lot of the things that Anna just mentioned. And actually, we were just boarded. When we were coming into Puerto Rico, the Coast Guard boarded us, and they didn't give us a ticket. The only thing, we had everything on board that we're supposed to have. So we had our fire extinguishers expired at the end of 2024 and some of our flares 2024. So we just replaced those while we're in boat garage, so it wasn't a big deal. We do have a life raft. We have a 6-person life raft. We do have AIS. We do have an EPIRB. I grabbed my husband to grab it just so I can show the people that don't know what an EPIRB is. This is what an EPIRB looks like. It's registered with the Coast Guard. It's got like all of our boating information, all the crew on board. It has basically it shows your GPS, so your exact GPS coordinates. So like if I were to open it up and click this button, it's going to send it directly to them. And then it also has our family. So like our family emergency contacts are on here. So like my sister-in-law, people like that, so they would be contacted. So like, you know, this is very important. We have 3 of these, but we actually have 2 that are registered. One of them is just old and crappy, so I didn't even register it. But I do have 2 that are registered for that. and then I have, all the, like she said, fire extinguishers. They say like the number one thing that can happen on a boat is a fire, like your most biggest emergency thing. So yes, we have now we got 10 fire extinguishers because the Coast Guard told us that the 2024 fire extinguishers actually still work, but I still had to go get 2025 ones. I don't know. But anyway, so now I have 10 fire extinguishers. So we got lots. We're not going down by fire. I promise you that. Anyhow, so that's on the safety. And then as far as when you're going out to buy a boat, one thing that I would definitely mention is please, by all means, if you only listen to one thing that I say and you think everything else I said was dumb, listen to this. Please get a survey for your boat. And let me tell you why. I've bought many boats and I've gotten a survey on all of them but one. And the one time I didn't, I wish I had. So get a survey on your boat. It was that lemon boat that I told y'all about that we thought we could fix up. So the reason we didn't get a survey on it was because I was thinking, duh, everything's wrong. I already know. I don't need a survey. Okay, thank you. I don't need you to tell me all the list of crap that's wrong. But yes, had I got a survey, I probably would have changed our minds on it. We probably would not have bought, that's not the word. Bought. Don't take English lessons. We probably would not have bought that boat. Purchase, Jimbo said. Anyways, get a survey. So basically what a survey is like when you buy a house and you get an inspection done and somebody comes and checks out the house for you and tells you, oh, the roof's messed up and the septic's messed up, blah, 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 like you do on a house. That's basically what a survey is. Just do it. It's expensive. So that's why everybody's trying so hard to figure out every excuse to get out of it because it is expensive. It's not cheap. It's not a couple $100. How much was ours? $1,500? $1,200, I think, for ours or something like that. So it's definitely not one of those cheap things.
It's a negotiating.
But it's a negotiating tool, like Jimbo was just saying as well. We were able to, our boat was listed at 120, we paid 111, but we had a negotiation tool because the guy that went over everything said, okay, all these things are wrong, and that's your negotiation. So you can say either fix these, just like when you buy a house, either if you'll fix these things, I'll pay the full price, or if you'll come down on the price, and then I can use that money to fix these things that got to be done. So yeah, please get a survey. It's stressful. Yes. But anyway, definitely get a survey. And then I think Anna kind of touched base on insurance. Yeah, insurance is a pain. So State Farm for ours is $120 a month. But basically, if you're trying to do insurance in Florida and even into the Caribbean, it's not that hard to get insurance. But once you start I'm traveling all over the world, peace out, then they start getting real difficult to deal with. And you're constantly having to change insurances. So I don't know what we're going to do about that kind of thing because a lot of places will insure you in Florida and they will insure you so far down in the Caribbean until a certain. Anna, you probably know how far down the Caribbean do they do it?
It depends because I know some places they won't even insure you in Cuba or Jamaica. So it really just depends on and every insurance company has a different thing that they're surprise.
Exactly.
We don't actually cover this island.
That's right.
And then
so
you're
it's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to be I'm going around the world kind of thing, it's just a whole nother huge headache because then they're oh, I'll insure you for French Polynesia. So then you get this insurance that's going to cover you through Panama Canal and French Polynesia. But then after you get out of there, no, we're not insuring you anymore. And you're what? And now you have to get a whole nother insurance. So that's a whole nother thing. But if you're going to travel the world, I'll just go ahead and tell you, it's going to be a huge headache with insurance. But you're just going to have to do research, ask other boaters. So we know people have circumnavigated and we've talked with them and different things that they've done. So definitely do some research about that because it's a whole nother 5-hour long conversation.
That's another live for another time. Wild, what about you guys?
Well, we're a U.S. Coast Guard certified boat, so we're not registered in a state. So some people do that, and that has tax purposes, specific things tied if you are registered in a state as opposed to being a U.S. Coast Guard certified boat. We have a dinghy. We have a 6-person life raft right there. We have a life sling, we have an E-Perb, we have a Garmin. Fire extinguishers, all of the regular stuff that you need.
Engine room automatic fire.
We have an engine room automatic fire extinguisher. We have no propane on our boat, like I said, and we run on diesel, so that's a whole other in and of itself to a certain degree safety measure. And insurance, I relate to we are on a semi-custom 1980 boat that we refit. So we did have an original survey. We left having Progressive, right? We left with Progressive. I don't know. Progressive dropped us at some point. We had to get new insurance when we were in the USVIs. And we don't really pay attention, as we're currently in the Bahamas and the Crooked Islands, to the latitude and longitude lines where you're supposed to be with regards to insurance, because they won't pay out if you're in certain areas. So like our first year when we were on the boat, we traveled down and out as far as the Dry Tortugas, leaving in Virginia, and then we traveled up as far as Atlantic City in New Jersey. And we were supposed to be out Florida June 1st, or maybe earlier than that, but I can tell you we were sitting in Daytona because I was in Colorado. And Chris was sitting in the Daytona Beach Marina waiting for me to get back, and I didn't get back till June 15th. So, you know, we're watching this storm. We have like basic coverage because that's what gets us into a marina. And I just wrote a post yesterday actually on what would we do if a hurricane comes as we're traveling up and it stows as much stuff. And we sat through a tsunami warning in the USVIs, and you have that conversation of, well, the boat might not be there. So like that's kind of we watched all different things with regards to other people and insurance, whether they pay, they don't pay, you know, I mean, there's lots of variables there. And we've come to accept we would get, you know, our lives are number one. If we can prepare for it, you get as much of your personal stuff, because I, unlike everybody else, like my first year when we were getting on the boat, I packed everything. I put everything that I could on the boat, because everything that I had heard was we weren't going to be able to get stuff. And so I wanted to be fully prepared with all of my stuff. And then after we spent, you know, a season in Key West, did that, turned around when we went back through Virginia, I offloaded majority of the stuff that I had put on the boat, because I realized as long as we were in the U.S., we still could get stuff easily. When you leave the U.S., it becomes a whole other situation. Like we needed new bladders, we ordered them in the DR, things of that nature. It shifts. And then having a budget to be able to deal with those things too. We had a damaged prop 2 days before we left the U.S. in West Palm. Our anchor shackle broke and we lost our anchor. So like those, you know, that's part of, I think, safety too, is being able to deal with whatever situation occurs. Like we literally floated across the channel right in West Palm, and if the West Palm government dock hadn't like been there, like we would have been like so out of luck. So, you know, stuff happens.
Oh yeah, it does.
And we don't kind of expect insurance to, it's there because we need it, or we need it. But we don't expect to recoup. Like our boat is too specific once you've, you know, altered things, and we would have to have another full survey done in order for them to recognize all of the money that we have put back into it.
Okay.
Which we just haven't done yet. So.
Well, and ours was originally U.S. Coast Guard documented as well, so we just kept it documented, which was a quick and easy process. We did get a survey before we put in an offer on the vessel. The survey actually came back better than what they were selling it for, so we were very happy about that. We got the boat for less than they were offering. We worked out a couple of things again because that survey came back with a couple of improvements that probably needed to be done. So we were able to negotiate with that survey. So I definitely second the survey. As far as safety, we've got all of the above that everyone has mentioned, the EPIRBs, PLBs, which are personal locator beacons. We have the life raft, a dinghy, up-to-date flares, fire extinguishers. We did get a Garmin, it's an 86 SCI, so it's a tracker. So if we do not have cell service or internet, it's a satellite-based tracker where our family and the U.S. Coast Guard and everybody can still see where we are. So we do have that as well. We do have an AIS transceiver so that we can see and also transmit our location. Starlink internet. We do have a ditch kit in case we had to just get off the vessel quickly. We grab our ditch kit, get in our life raft or dinghy, and head out. Life jackets, of course, extra life jackets for guests, all that stuff. Okay, so we're cutting it close. We're going to try to get out of here by 3:30. So what we're going to do is we're going to really cut down this last question, and then we'll get to Q&A. I've been trying to keep up with questions in the chat. If you guys want to start putting questions, I will try to keep up again, but I'm going to start all the way back from the very first question we saw. So the last question for the group is, if you're comfortable with it, if you could share your monthly or yearly expenses, and what are they? Like, what items are you monthly, are you putting on monthly or yearly? Patty and the cat?
I would say our biggest expense is our marina that we have in the Keys. The Keys is a little pricey if you want to be a member somewhere. So we pay $24,000 a year for that. That's our biggest expense.
Gotcha. Anna?
It's so variable because we live aboard full time, but we sail for 6 months and we're home for 6 months, and we own a business. So like, it just, it's not super clear cut. I would say when we're sailing, we spend about $4,000 a month, and that would be food, fuel, bills, insurance, health insurance, that kind of stuff. And then when we're home, we're spending a lot more money because we're renovating, we're doing all that kind of stuff, and we're also running a business, and we're also saving to go sailing. So it's like, it's pretty hard to like give an exact number like that just in our specific situation. But when we leave, we spend about $4,000 a month, but we bring about $5,000 a month with us, because you know how it can be. And then we also do have a like reserve in case of emergency kind of thing, that we try really hard not to use. But anyway, so yeah, I think it just depends on, and also I want to say really quickly too, we've done it for much less than that as well. Like, we've sailed for much less than that as well. But now I have 2 kids, and they're 11 and 7, and they eat a lot. So I would say truly when we're sailing, our biggest budget is food. I can't believe how much money we spend on lettuce.
Oh man, Tiffany?
I agree kind of with what Anna was saying about, it's very hard because there's so many, especially if you're moving around, like different countries. So, like, food is definitely our most biggest expense, because I think most people probably, if they have a boat limit, that's probably the top expense. But since I don't have that, I would say that it's food. But that does, like, wildly, because like we were in the DR for a month, food was very cheap, and so I could get a lot of groceries. Like, I was like, oh my god, I got this whole buggy for like $250, and it was like a huge buggy. And then I'm walking out in the Bahamas with a bag this big, and it's like $250, and I'm like, man, I love being in the DR. So, yeah, like I've said many times before, I've paid $10 for 1 head of lettuce in Georgetown Exumas, and then I paid 50 cents for a head of lettuce in the DR. So I definitely think, like, people ask me that on my lives a lot, and it's not that I'm trying to be ambiguous. It's not that I'm trying to be like secretive or hide it or anything. I just don't know how to answer, because it could be $5,000 one month and $2,000 the next. Because like when we were in the DR, it was like so much cheaper. But I also have some land stuff. I think Anna mentioned this in one of her lives, and I think even maybe Randy. But we do have some land stuff that we're still paying for. Sucking me dry. So I'm trying so hard to get out of that stuff. There's a few things that I'm still having to pay. One of my other things I would say is biggest advice I can tell you for this life: cut ties with all your land life expenses if you can. So we tried, but we kind of did it pretty quickly. Like, I mean, once we got the boat, we were like, got the boat gone. Like 10 minutes later, like, I'm out. I got the boat. Leave me alone. And so I didn't feel like dealing with any of that crap. But yeah, so I'm still dealing with stuff back home. So like probably 50% of what I spend is like BS back home that I'm trying to finish dealing with. And like I told y'all, when I had those 2 bad days, some things are super annoying to deal with when you're not there. So like trying to sell our old boat and like trying to deal with like the house rental, we have different stuff, is like so annoying. So yeah, try to cut ties with that if you can. But yeah, my biggest expense is definitely food, and then fuel is probably second. Food and fuel is like what we spend all our money on pretty much, when you don't count our land life stuff. So definitely, like, I'm still paying rent at home, a light bill at home, like other bull crap. So yeah, try to cut that out if you can.
Cool, thanks, Wild.
I definitely agree. Food, Chris second that it is our largest expenditure. I do go over and above to find organic food. So we will sail to an island so that I can go to an organic farm. I got organic stuff. We spent all last season, 9 months actually, in the DR. So that, so far, being on the boat for 2.5 years, was actually our largest expenditure. We had an elderly dog. We were in a marina. We ran the AC. The average temperature in the DR in the summer is 104. And they're 20 cents a kilowatt, like more than what we paid for our electricity in Virginia. So like that, that was quite a lot, the little chunk there. But besides that, you notice things like we filled up our diesel when we were in Puerto Rico, and then we went to the USVIs and it was $2 a gallon more. We have 350 gallon tank. So you look at situations like that, I think the more you travel, you kind of get to, you pick and choose. And so food, diesel, that's pretty much it. We really don't prefer to be in a marina outside of like once we left our home port, like we wanted to live aboard. And so we spent our first season in Key West at anchor, and it was awesome. I mean, we spend money on like stuff we do and going out to eat and things of that nature, and then buying things and just bringing it in. Or things like, we lost our anchor. So we lost our anchor. Our prop got damaged. We had to order a new prop. We needed to haul out. So we just hauled out in the BVIs. It was $5,000 for 2 weeks on the hard. It cost $1,500 to paint the bottom when we could have bought 5 gallons for $1,000, and we only used 2.5 if we would have been able to pull out in the DR. So there's things like that we had planned on going to the DR, being put on the hard and doing this work. It didn't work out that way, and then we paid double it going to BVIs. So like those kind of things are not necessarily allotted for, but they're required. So I think that we don't pay, a lot of money for insurance, where Tiffany, your insurance is a good price, $120. I mean, you have better coverage. We have liability. Yeah. And I think you have better coverage than us for $120. So I think that where you are and what you're buying too is a variable. But food by far.
Got it. We don't spend any.
Oh, when we're sailing, Chris said we don't spend any money, right?
So we try to sail.
Yeah, so we try to sail, but we're motoring today. So we're motoring for 10 hours.
But yeah, I've been trying to explain that to people because we've been on the thorny passage, for the past couple of months, and so we're just going head into the wind, head into the waves the whole time. So we've done a little sailing, but not very much. It definitely drives people crazy on my lives when we're like not sailing. So I'm always like, sometimes we'll tack, of course, but like sometimes we don't or whatever. But yeah, we've been going head into the wind and waves in the thorny passage for a while now. So I'm definitely ready to.
Yeah. Well, now you're there, so you'll be able to. Yeah, you can sail hopping back and forth between those islands. That's awesome.
We got our 30 days like 3 times.
Oh, Chris said we got our 30 days like 3 times popping over to the BVI.
They didn't like it.
Yeah. We know St. Thomas and St. John so well. Yeah.
Well, for us, we're still in a marina, so that's obviously our biggest cost. Our slip here is about $1,500 a month. So as soon as we can get out on the anchor, we're going to be saving that cost right away. I have an 18-year-old who's going to leave us as an empty nester soon. So that's a huge body I don't have to feed anymore. So we're excited to save on these costs of the marina and food for sure. So those are kind of our biggest expenses right now. But we're usually about a $2,500 to $3,000 a month budget for boat stuff, fuel for our vehicles also, because we're still working and driving on land. So we're living kind of that dual life right now, paying for 2 different lives. So it's kind of chaotic at the moment. So, okay, we're going to get into some of the questions. I'm going all the way back to the first question I saw. Hot Dog, if he's still in here. The way that this is going to work is I'm just going to shout out the question and anyone can answer. We can all answer, but keep in mind we're going to try to keep this to about 9 minutes. So the faster the answers, the better. So Hot Dog asked, do all boaters get along?
No. Some boaters come with drama.
And marinas are like neighborhoods where the houses are way too close. So
I will say that cruising in the boating community in general is a
The best thing about
community.
Yeah. The best thing about having a boat is that you don't have to like your neighbor because you can pick up and go.
Yeah, that's what we love about it.
So Hot Dog also asked, what type of funds do I need for a sailboat for retirement? Anyone in retirement stages yet? Melvin's, you kind of are, right?
I'm sorry?
Oh, we're talking about funds during retirement for sailing. Anyone in that stage of like retirement, like?
Well, I mean, we're not working if that's what's considered retirement.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's, and I think that would go to your budget, but we didn't start. Chris worked when we left initially for a couple months, but that didn't seem to work. He's in IT, and I had my own business, and I do health coaching, so I was able to do that a little bit remotely, which I've now figured out how to incorporate that. Like, I think I miss doing that, so I want to work. But we are not currently working. Or haven't worked in 2.5 years.
So on the same terms of that, is retirement a concern? This is from Samantha. We're getting old on a boat, getting too old to keep up with boat stuff. Are those concerns for you guys? Anybody?
I would say 60% of the people that I meet are retired. Like when we're sailing in the Bahamas, we're the odd ones out, like a young family or like younger people. Like I would say that like most of the people are retired. So I honestly feel like retirement in boat life, like that's kind of the idea I had of what it was to be like do boat life, was like a bunch of retired people, which is awesome. And they're some of my favorite people around because they're so chilled out. So
MJ asked, what was the biggest thing you learned either personally or boat wise?
That's a tough one.
How to just make things work. Like if you're super uptight about everything going the way you want, I definitely wouldn't do this lifestyle, because things are always gonna not go the way you want. You think you're doing one thing, the weather says otherwise. You think that you're gonna do this thing on your boat, then something else breaks. So definitely like going with the flow and just learning to be okay with it not going like a certain way. So if you're very rigid plans or very or it has to be this way, you're gonna be miserable in this lifestyle because there's no way to make everything fit in the little box of the way you want it to be. So I would say one of the perfect things I've learned, you let it back, go with the flow, because that's what you need to do for this lifestyle, in my opinion. I don't know how anyone could make it if they weren't like that, because everything's just, you can't control it. It's all up to the wind. And
I'm a control freak, so I have learned a lot by living on a boat. Let me just tell you.
I'm a controller too, so I've learned a lot.
Also, life is really, really friggin' beautiful. Like that's something like I cannot believe how I've been able to stumble into this life that is like so beautiful.
Chris
Like,
just said managing fears like as a couple, because that is different for us. Like he grew up on boats, so what is comfortable for him, like you had said about healing, things of that nature. That's definitely something. Like he raced, he will put the rail in the water, and he's very comfortable with that. It's not a matter of like, to me for that comfort, but it's like our stuff is in here and we have an open thing. So like, I don't like things to fall or break and that is something that through time, like I've learned to stow for sea better and things of that nature. I've come to learn the movement of our boat, which is up, down, left, and right. That's literally how she moves in the waves. But like we left Turks and Caicos in 8-foot seas, and I don't like that. Like, I choose to not do that. And so we've had to kind of come together as a couple so that he doesn't literally scare me to death so that I go, I quit, I'm out. Because his fear factor level is somewhere different than mine. And so we've kind of had to come together to settle on, passages and even like what are things. Like I've heard Tiffany say before that she's not scared of sharks. Well, I am. I don't want to see one. We go out every day. He goes, I hope I see a shark today. And I immediately say, I hope we do not see a shark today. So those are, different things for us. But then we've got to operate, within that so that we're both able to go snorkeling and do scuba activities that are boat related, but they keep me on you know, he'll go to land and go to waterfalls. Like so, you know, I love to hike. He loves to hike. But so to incorporate those kind of things together as a couple so that you can be successful going forward, because it could, you know, it could create damage that, who knows? I wouldn't be on the boat anymore. Like, I mean, if I got that scared, honestly, like, you know, he doesn't want to put me in that position. So I had to slowly grow into long passages, grow into what it feels like for our boat to be in a storm. You know, we've ridden out all of these different kinds of storms and how that feels and what that looks like, or picking weather windows, things of that nature.
I always tell her the boat can handle more than she can.
Yes, he always tells me the boat can handle more than I can. And I learned that. We fully ran aground on an unmarked reef in Turks and Caicos. I mean, it stopped our boat while we were sailing. So that was like a harrowing experience, and I carried that with me for a bit, and I've overcome that.
Good. Yeah. Hot Dog also asks, is it generally safe to invite others aboard while at sea?
What was it, Randy? Invite others?
Is it generally safe to invite others on board on your boat while you're traveling at sea?
Like other boaters?
My sister and her 1-year-old daughter and her 6-year-old daughter at the time and her husband came on for a month in the Bahamas with us. I mean, you know, I think, you know, like, it's your responsibility to keep them safe, that's for sure. So if you're not willing to keep somebody safe, or if you don't think that that person is reasonably capable of listening and knowing when to sit down and shut their mouth if something's going on, then, like, maybe they're not allowed on board. But, like, I would also say that sharing this life with people I love and my family is one of my favorite things too. So it's really about your comfort level. But yeah, you are responsible for the people on your vessel, and if you can't,
anyone with experience with guests, like people you don't really know, but you're like, hey, come to the boat. Anyone invite kind of randoms to your boat?
I mean, we've had like for other boater friends come on our boat that we just met, but like they didn't stay the night on our boat. And then my sister-in-law and brother-in-law came and visited when we were in the Bahamas, and they didn't stay the night on the boat. They actually got a hotel in town, and they just
Gotcha. Yeah, I think besides just general boaters, that's all we've kind of invited to the boat. We've never had any like gatherings or parties or anything. And family and friends, again, like what Anna said, just making sure they're safe and life jackets for everybody, and everyone knows how to exit and that sort of thing. Let's see here. This is a question for the parents. If one of you had a health emergency, I'm going to say, are you and your kids able to take over sailing reasonably well?
Yeah, I can sail the boat. I can single hand the boat if I have to. I don't want to. It's a 3-masted, 4-sailed schooner. I don't want to do it. I really love my captain and I want him to be the captain. But yes, I can take over sailing. We share the responsibilities while underway, 50-50. So 4 hours on, 4 hours off with overnight sails and stuff like that. And as far as my children being able to sail the boat, they're 7 and 11. Both of them know how to make a mayday call, a distress call to the Coast Guard. We practice this. They know how to do man overboard techniques. We've also practiced that once or twice, where they know, like, one person has to keep eyes on somebody in the water all the time, pointing at the person in the water. You know, my older daughter knows how to read coordinates on the GPS, like that kind of stuff. But they're not capable of single-handing our boat. Like, that's not. But they do know what a halyard is. They know how to, like, you know, loosen the sheets if they had to stop the boat. But most importantly, they know how to make a mayday call, and that's really what we ask of them to keep them safe if something were to ever happen to my husband and I.
Mostly my older one, who's 11, like he knows how to use the call and different things like that. But no, like neither one of mine could like single-handed the boat on their own. And yes, I do share responsibilities with them as well. But like my husband is the captain, and he does a lot of the captaining. But yes, we do obviously share night shifts and share responsibility and things like that. Yeah, my kids could not single-handedly go on their own, but yeah, they do know how to use VHF and do certain things. Yeah, mostly my older, who's 11. So my 8-year-old, even though he's about to be 9, he's a little bit more immature. So really, my 11-year-old knows. They know like about like skills and
Yeah, and I have full confidence students and our 18-year-old. Of course, he'll be leaving us, but I know that he'd be able to handle that in a situation, and again, knows how to drop the sails or stop the boat or whatever should one of us be able to not do that. So definitely going to miss him, but when he comes back, he knows what he's doing as well. So last question, I just saw another one pop up real quick. This will be the last question. So thanks again, everybody, for being here, and I hope everyone in the chat has followed everybody here so that you can go watch all of us go live. So that's kind of the point of us doing this, is you can go watch all of these wonderful women and their captains, and some of us sometimes we're the captain, I feel like, the admiral, more like it. You can go follow us. We go live all the time, so that's why we're here. Last question is from Sandy Lee. We're going to ask just real quick, what is your favorite oops story while traveling on your boat?
Oops story.
Oops. Ours was run aground. We came to that screeching halt. Yeah.
We've ran aground. I can't even tell you how many times we've ran this boat aground. It's fun at this point. We're like, oh, look at free bottom cleaning. The sand is cleaning the bottom. Whatever. If you ain't been aground, you ain't been around. We've ripped our mainsail. We've got caught in water spouts. I mean, the stories,
right?
like, yeah.
I accidentally put toilet paper in the toilet once. That was an oops that you only do one time. I didn't flush it, so I could still save the whole system, thank God. But transitioning from land to boat, sometimes that muscle memory just kicks in, and especially in the middle of the night or something. So that was an oops. You don't want to do that on the boat. You don't want to flush your toilet paper, even if they say it's marine toilet paper. Just don't do it.
Anyone else?
Oh my gosh, Chris just said about us hitting a line. We were leaving Samana, and there were fishing lines. We didn't see them. Got wrapped all around our prop. Whatever they make the fishing lines out of, it creates a big plastic wad and just melts on the prop. So we were like 100 feet offshore. Well, not 100 feet. We were like 10 miles offshore. And it was not good wind or weather, and so basically we tied Chris to the boat, and Chris in that weather had to dive on our prop to cut off this fishing line that came out to be like a wad this big, and it was about that thick.
Wow.
So he was down there just diving, and it's one of those moments where when you hit the reef in the middle of the ocean, like literally in the middle of the ocean, we were sailing between Turks and the other Turks island, and the whole entire boat stopped. You have this moment of reckoning that goes, oh shit, it could be all done, because it could be. And if we weren't a full catch keel made out of fiberglass, it would have been all done. We would have been shredded. So you have that moment, but you get off of it, and then you have that moment, like the oops, and knock on wood. You look for fishing pots, you look for the floating bleach cans, and you learn from those things, and you hope it doesn't happen again.
No, for sure.
Ours are the same kind of stories. We got plenty of run around. We have anchor tags.
Cool. Well, thanks again, guys, so much. We're going to get off, and I greatly appreciate everybody for being here. Be sure to follow, and thanks again so much. Well, we'll probably do it next month. I hope everybody's okay with that. We'll look again at July, see where everybody's at. Oh, stay safe. It is hurricane season starting today, so everybody stay safe, and we'll see you guys live again next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Randy Joe. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having on.
Oh, yeah,